Hey everybody, welcome to the Kingdom meeting. I am Zach, and we're just going to go dive straight into it. So, domain summon selection is most likely going to be in March, so I want everyone to prepare for their domain names. Citizens that are not aristocracy or nobility can choose a duchy at any time, as the domain summon selection doesn't really affect them as much. But it is also equally important for them to ask questions, even though the focus will be on the domain holders. That said, the meeting is about DSS and anyone that basically want to ask Duke any questions in regards to the duchy. Um, Everything at the moment regarding duchies is quite tentative, as we are still waiting on more detailed maps with counties and resources. That said, each duchy will basically need everything, so blacksmiths, scribes, soldiers, etc. However, the Duke may have a specific focus or project that they have for their duchy. So whether that will be primarily coastal industries or maybe farming. That said, again, that they will need everything. Um, so that the way, um, I'll dive into my duchy's focus, which will be at this time probably most likely the Niran Duchy focused on research and farming. My drafts will most likely focus on industry for the bog iron and medicine. Again, until the map with more detailed county lines and resources comes out, that is pretty much tentative and what I'll be focusing on in the meantime. Um, so there will be a time once that map comes out and before domain settlement selection, we will have another kingdom meeting to discuss uh, more concrete plans. I'll pass this on to now Uriel, so he can explain his duchy's focus. Him?
So we're discussing with the council, looking at the climate of how things are going to be. Um, things could change based on when we get as we get closer to domain settlement. But it looks like, given the position Kainor is going to be in, where as the Duke, I'm probably going to be focusing myself on industrial means and thank you, Zach, and the economy, because I'm going to be in a good position where between us, our neighbors, and all of that, I should be in a position where I can oversee a lot more of the trade that's going to happen.
Yep. And then we got Lothar.
Yep, so as you can see by that map, I'll be in the northernmost semi-arid desert there, right on the borders of Kingdom 2. So basically I'll be in charge of the military for that area. As Uriel was saying before, and Zach as well, doesn't mean that it's purely military. Obviously I'm going to need people that want to breed animals and if there is a chance of it, farming as well, all sorts are still needed in there. But the main focus will be military, spying, all that sort of stuff as part of the WED. Yeah.
The WED do have it listed as their main primary export resource being people. And by that they mean like spying, mercenaries, that sort of stuff. Hopefully not slave trade. let's hope that's not what they mean, but they haven't said. So that's going to be a big thing too. And just to touch on it, when he says PvP, because of where that is, because of the way the WED work, there's going to be a lot of skirmishes there. So
That's correct. The weird
without us having to go to war,
yeah,
there's going to be a lot of conflict up there if you're looking at any point to get in on some PvP.
the weird can't
That's
do
what we're
pitch
hoping.
battles, basically. So they can't actually form a army and go battle. That's not in the game mechanics at all. They can only pretty much hit and run. So, like raids and things like that, ambushing. That's more their idea, and I guess that's what their line of SPS is thinking with the two weird biomes in the middle there. So there'll be lots of braiding and whatnot. So perfect PvP area if you want to PvP and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, so that the way, we go to the Q&As. Obviously there'll be some questions we're unable to answer due to information or whatnot, but we can definitely see if we can maybe do some theory crafting if we have time. So that out the way, do any of you guys want to take the floor and ask us questions, or type in the voice chat, or whichever works best for you guys? I see some type in the voice chat there, so I was waiting.
Yeah. Just keep waiting.
Music box with elevator music. If a war breaks out, the Weird will be participating. They just can't do pitch battles. So that'll be like hitting the supply lines, most likely, and ambushing them.
If you've ever played any sort of strategy game where you have like a spy faction that you send in to like weaken the enemy defenses or like lower the drawbridge before you assault the castle,
they're like the special forces, basically.
That's more what they do. Yeah. We don't send them in on the battlefield. They're more designed for raiding like trade lines, that sort of stuff.
Subterfuge, exactly. Like special, medieval special forces.
I don't expect it to be that much of a problem. I will have outposts, things like that.
And with the way your cities work too, you're pretty secure when it comes to that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so the only raiding could well be from a couple of NPCs might just wander in, and I just have to deal with them from time to time. Assuming the game mechanics have them, we might have bandit lairs that might be in the area that we might have to take care of, so bounties, that sort of stuff. But overall, I mean, I don't imagine there'd be that much of a problem, especially early on.
If anyone want to ask us a question in voice chat, feel free to speak up to if you so want. Yes. So, with Daenerys having grasslands and having standing armies, my thinking of that, a Baron Duchy will be viable. I tend to try and keep my PvPers busy, as in war games and whatnot. That will not affect actual villages or towns or anything. It's more for the fact that it will be military against military, no coup de grace, just knockouts. So it'll be like, I'm thinking maybe duchy versus duchy, county versus county.
We have also had it expressed that, you know, some of the other kingdoms might do not necessarily an actual war, but just some war games to see what shit's like.
Yeah.
And go from there.
That. And also I'm thinking, I don't exactly know how this is going to work, and this is more theory crafting, is I could send a standing army force up into the Vorhead Duchy, up in the Weird, and then have some sort of standing army up there dealing with any of the oncoming raids that we'll probably be having from the north.
Yeah, that way we could also try to integrate sort of military training as well, so that maybe we can start to bring them out of just purely raiding.
Again, theory crafting, but...
Theory crafting as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the plan.
It's an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Theory. Preventing supply raids.
I'm just reading that. Becoming likely to detract from force abilities against enemy criminals.
I might need you to expand on that a little bit, personally.
I guess is what you're getting to.
Like, slowing down their supplies. Slowing down. Oh, yes and no. I mean, you can probably hire mercenaries to help protect caravans.
Yeah, adventurers that are loyal to the crown, stuff like that. Like, there's multiple ways to do it, and regardless of how you set it up, in a military strategy, you're always going to have someone on a perimeter of that line anyway. So them raiding that spot and retreating for a while realistically could just be part of their route for patrolling.
And don't forget, this is a game about logistics too, from what we understand, is if those supply caravans get raided, that army up north that's, you know, needs those supplies badly are just going to get wiped or whatever. That could be like between life and death, so there is that aspect as well.
Yeah, the proper protection will send as needed. Yeah.
Yep. Any other questions or ideas or suggestions, even?
One thing we have over every other kingdom is we have such a wide variety of cultures. We have 4 different groups.
Yep.
Do you guys have plans to like make it so that everyone will get along with different cultures, or are you going to keep them sort of separate at this stage? Obviously, we don't know everything, so what are your plans at this stage? That
I don't think the. Sorry, you go, Zach.
No, you go. You go. It's fine.
No, you go.
Shut up. What I was going to say is, I don't think it's something we've particularly discussed, but if I personally had to contemplate how I'd handle that, like as putting it to the council, I think what happens organically, and that to an extent, like we're all part of the same kingdom, so we don't want to see revolts or like one duchy attacking another because of race. But I think, for the most part, just let people do what they want. We're here to do a story, really. Like if conflict happens, and we'll deal with it as it comes up.
That's right. I mean, you also got the religion aspect as well, as the twofold queen is half the kingdom basically. You got the Dras and the Weird.
The twofold kingdom affects 3 different kingdoms, and it is something that everybody will be keeping in mind.
Yes.
I can tell you that as far as I know, everybody's keeping that in mind to some degree.
Yes, and I believe the Turesk, they what was the Turesk? That was the Titans one, wasn't it? Can't remember the name at the top of my head. But we got Naren, that was basically the Vittori, and then the Turesk is the other one, I can't remember. The Kindred does it. So we have like 3 different religions in Kingdom 3.
Like it's a situation that's going to be interesting to watch, but it's really going to depend on what sort of things are driving something like that.
And I mean, SBS wouldn't have put them all together. There wasn't going to be some way to sort of coexist.
Yeah,
So,
as far as I could imagine, there'd be some sort of foundation for everyone getting along.
Yeah.
Do you mean like the tribes? Yeah, so are you meaning, are you looking, I think I know what you mean. I was just opening that up. Give me a second. Is that what you're looking at? Or what you're thinking of, Mahangul?
Oh, sorry, like, you know, the Weird and the Dras somehow meant to be at ends with each other. Like,
Yeah,
I
so
remember
that-
early on there was that little interaction map. I just can't remember it very
Yeah,
well. I thought
this
you guys
is the
probably
interaction
agreed
map.
with it.
Yeah, that's correct. So this is the interaction map. I think it's not up to date yet, but it's kind of, you see the dynamics there. Like the Weird, okay, the Dras, the Niran are pretty.
The Weird and the Dras, as far as I understood it, don't particularly get along, but they're not gonna kick each other's doors in and murder someone.
Yeah, but on this graph it says they're fine. So I don't know. Like, I think that's really out of date. So.
We have a lot of flavor and lore text to go off, but no real solid sort of information, because everything's subject to change.
Is it possible a religion could die out? That's a good question, Zelkius. I don't actually know the answer to that.
It may be possible. I mean,
Maybe.
kingdoms can die out. Kingdoms can flat out die out. Like what we're starting with in 5 years could not exist.
True enough. So, I reckon it could be possible, but I guess that's more of a question for SBS and.
Yeah, a lot of that might just come down to how much there is in the lore. Like, you know, they each have their own beliefs to do with the kindred and that sort of stuff. Like, I guess it just comes down to how big of an importance the actual spiritual body is behind something like that. And that might even just be one of those things, like with the world building of, you know, like our server could go into steampunk or someone else goes into high fantasy. It may just be the case of SBS adjusts that as the community pushes a religion out.
Yep.
They may not have planned for that yet at all.
Interesting question nonetheless.
Mm.
Yeah, so Preacher, he was the Duke of Acheron. So he's obviously now King of Capricorn. Kov, he recently became a Duke.
And then jump ship.
Yes.
Nah. it wasn't like that, but we did have quite a few people that shifted across.
Yeah, Preacher was your liege lord. Yeah, that's fair enough. So obviously there's no hard feelings if anyone wants to move over to Capricorn.
We did have a system set up for a while there to help people with moving over, but if you're shifting across,
just let us know.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's the same with if you're moving from one duchy to another. before, during, or even after DSS, just say something. Just let us know.
Yeah, that's
We're
it.
We're
not
not going to sit here and
not gonna
fucking
bite.
be like, "Oh, fuck you for leaving." Like, we still have people that are in LV that'll still tagged as a citizen because they wish to run an alt in the kingdom, even though they shifted across. We're fine with that.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, especially if you're just a citizen, you have pretty much unlimited time to pick a duchy. As for aristocracy and nobility, you have pretty much until DSS, but there's not going to be any pressure or anything until then anyway. So.
Yeah.
What's the kingdom attitude towards pirates, which has come up a lot recently? I've noticed in a few discussions.
Where that's come up because of Ithakari.
Yeah, the pirate duchy.
Exactly. But yeah.
I think Zach may have a different opinion on this being king, but my plan, at least, with the whole pirating thing, is if it's out on the high seas, like outside of the duchy jurisdiction, technically, if it happens just off the coast, that's different. But if it's out on the seas, that's between sailors. Like, fair enough, it's a royal transport. We send naval ships to guard it. That's what happens. But if they're raiding settlements, well, I mean, that's a different matter, and that comes down to your count and your duke, especially if you're like a mayor. That comes down to them working with you to secure your places.
Yeah, so I think with the trade route, so if it's outside, like as you said, outside the high seas, that's pretty much, you'd say, international law, so to speak. But there'll probably, I'll just say, agreements, most likely, I'll say, to have between the kingdoms to secure trade routes and keep away the pirates. I'd like to think that'll be the case. I haven't talked to the other kings about it yet, but I think we'll all be agreeable that trade routes will flourish and give each other trade, so to speak. But definitely, if it's in the region of a duchy, it's more up to the duke because he'll be maintaining an army and a navy. That said, if it's becoming too much of a problem as it's affecting the kingdom, then we might be looking at the kingdom navy stepping in and trying to find maybe the hideout the pirates or whatever and root them out if they're causing us too much of trouble.
So, Galaxy, you can answer this one if you want, but I know for a while there I was doing a fair bit of research, so I'm happy to assist you with that. The whole, how the Word planning on doing farming in the desert?
Oh, yes, sorry, I was just answering DM. That's a good question. I haven't really looked into that personally. Yeah.
So, they have their own ways of doing it. SPS have said that you will still be doing stuff like that. There will still be ways of doing farming. I forget what they said, the actual stuff, but a lot more of it is pretty much desert-related stuff. Realistically, from what I understand, you'll be producing enough for your settlement to go off, and that will be about it. You don't export like, say, the Naren would be.
Okay, so with the food, I'm going off the Wikipedia page. They cultivated vegetation and dryland farming. So that's herbs, maize, tipari beans, winter wheat, and cactus. Then you got cultivated meat, wild beast, sheep, goats, medium-large rodents, hunted animals such as very desert rodents, reptiles, and mammals.
There you go.
So that's off the Wikipedia page. Yeah, cactus sounds great.
Yeah, it should be. And even if it's only just enough to sort of live off time being, we might be able to import. That's what the trade would. We need stuff, we'll get it.
Yeah.
That's right. Like, we are planning to make a trade from my capital down to Uriel and up through the second Duchy of Lorenda in Dras, up to the Duchy of Vorhut, and then obviously down into the Kingdom of the South as well.
Yeah.
Come by my shit.
And especially with the WED being right on the border of K2, we got access to pick up there as well. That might want to come through and trade. So it's sort of it's going to be a bit up there as well. And hopefully possibly or at least in the second somehow claim that. I don't know how we will, but yeah.
We will work on these
We will
things.
work on that.
We know that in exposition we can expand our borders a little bit, using the NPCs ones. So depending on what sort of flexing room we have there, we might try and change the structure of where some of the borders sit to make things work better.
And possibly KOE, Kingdoms of
Yeah.
Illyria. That could also be a way to take NPCs up.
So with McAngel's question, so at the moment our king controls 50% of his territories. If we don't know how the AI feels,
Does that mean the Duchy AI you're talking about there, Mahangel?
Yeah, I
I'll
would
clarify to
think
say, if presuming, as far as planning goes, you'd have to also plan for any potential, I don't know, challenge or something like that. If
Yep.
that makes sense.
Yep.
If
Yep.
the AI
So-
decided that they didn't like you because you gave away plenty of money to players, for example. Words, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
Theory crafting based on fucking studying game design and shit, and this is purely theory crafting. I have no evidence to support this, but the dukes that exist in the land should, by default, be loyal.
Yep.
If we
Unless
looked
I
at it as a
upset 'em.
Crusader, yeah, if we looked at it as a Crusader thing, they might be a plus 50 off the bat, because going into that scenario, it would be completely unfair for a king if suddenly somebody had a fucking problem with him the moment he spawned. His actions past that point is, well, this is why Zach is the king. He's got to make these tough decisions and keep everybody happy.
Yes.
No pressure.
It's good to be king, as I say.
Sit down, Simba.
That's it. Caspian says he's going to be a pretty mean dungeon master, so we'll see how we go.
Well, there's going to be some upsets that happen because, I mean, let's be honest. As LV as a community, I'm sure we would all like to see at least somebody take over those other duchies eventually, right?
Yes.
Like, we'd like to see more players be involved in the upper stuff, and the players that want to, that don't want to have anything to do with the democracy that exists and just want to be adventurers or farmers or blacksmiths. Like, they've got their places, but the people that still want to move up, it's good because we have that room for them to grow.
Exactly. If they want to build a community and stuff, then good chance for them to start doing that and prove to us that you can, raise up a community and keep it, and we'll do what we can to put you in the positions that the meritocracy.
Yeah, we just don't want to be like some other places that have promised half the lands already to take them off NPCs and give them to people in game, because that could cause some really bad instability within a kingdom.
That's a very good point. We can only put people up in positions that will not affect the kingdom's stability. If it will affect, then we'll see what we can do.
There are certain cultures that have to be taken into consideration, as well as the stability of the area. We're not going to support somebody doing a revolt if they're currently in the middle of trying to build some infrastructure that benefits the kingdom.
Yeah. That's exactly right. So, and that's another plan with the PvPers. It's not going to be war games only. Definitely we'll be trying to see if we can do some raiding on the NPC kingdoms, counties, towns, and whatnot, and get to practice in, as long as it again doesn't affect the kingdom stability, and definitely use that to our advantage.
And that's going to be one of the biggest advantage that. Okay, this isn't something that technically should be said, but for the sake of being said, I'll fucking say it. The being here with us and building the groundwork with us puts you guys in a position where you do have that option to be like, hey, you know me, we it's been 2 years since I joined the community, and that is something to an extent that we would take into consideration because it makes you less of a wild card.
It builds up
It doesn't
trust.
it doesn't guarantee you a spot, but the fact that you're here, you're with us, we can see what sort of notions we want to have and whether or not we're prepared to back you, because Zach might be busy, for example. Say, if you've got the map open, say you want to take the Turesk marches, you want to take one of the ones under me. Zach might be busy, but if you've got a good, solid claim pushing there, I might be able to send you some resources or back you and help you push on that.
Mm.
So, there's a lot of different ways to go about that sort of stuff.
That's it. It's like Crusader Kings 2. A lot of different ways
Yeah.
to do everything. It's great.
It doesn't have to be civil war.
Just assassinate everyone. CK.
That's it.
I mean, the NPC is a different story from players, so that's we'll see how that works out in game. As far as a list of citizens and like land and gentry and that sort of stuff, we are working on some of these things. With citizens, I think it's a lesser priority because realistically, at the end of the day, as just a base citizen, you can go wherever you want at any time. You can change your mind, and it makes it a lot harder for us to keep track if people want to shift around.
The only way to keep track of that is an actual census in game. So
Yeah.
there's not going to be any telemetry
Fill
or
out our
data.
census.
Yeah, there's not going to be any data to tell us where every citizen is. We literally have to send someone out for census to figure out how many people are in a town or city.
I see what you mean. Yeah, like all players on one side of the map. It's possible.
We could get invaded and not even know it for days. What happened? Oh shit, no one was there.
I mean,
no, I'm
that's
joking.
that's probably more of a survey we get people to fill out, rather than us trying
The
to
council
check up on everyone.
The council has taken such things as us getting invaded and not knowing about it into consideration if you consider where some of the things are placed.
Yep.
We are aware that these things are a possibility, and there's only so much we can do, but we are keeping those things in consideration when making plans. Hopefully somebody who's in charge of the information should be keeping a close eye on that.
Don't let
Though to be fair, if the marshes below me get invaded, I don't expect Lothar to have any fucking idea.
Generally,
No, like, that's at the other end of the kingdom. I'm like, hey, I got invaded this week. Really?
So where were you? What were you doing?
And that's the other thing too, with how big the map is. If somebody say invades in that duchy area between Vornut and the Drath area of Lorandor, like if somebody pushes in there, like it's not going to take them 20 minutes to travel from there, say down to LV's capital city. Like that's going to be like a couple of days worth of marching. We're going to know they're coming.
Yeah, I do have plans for invasions and things of like advanced entries and stuff, but that's
You can't
yeah.
hide it. You can't hide an invading force that
No.
you have to march halfway across the kingdom. It doesn't happen.
It's a logistics game. So
Um,
it'll be
Some
noticeable.
people have done it.
I mean, unless they're doing a tight raiding force of like, I guess special forces maybe, but then that's just more harass rather than invasion. Yeah.
I don't think LV itself condones cannibalism. That's not really
Of
something
course
we're
not.
going for.
Of course not. No.
just
But I
ignore
mean-
those traps in the north of the territory.
just
They're
just
for the giant rats.
just don't hang around. Just don't hang around the dress too much, and you'll be fine.
Listen, what happens out in the middle of the forest when you run out of food supplies happens out in the forest when you run out of food supplies. We don't need to know about it.
Yeah, what I was thinking, sorry, I think the way I envisioned it or understood what they were saying from Caspian and whatnot is that they'd have most of the world built and you'd be going through picking a settlement at
Yep.
like a man or barony level.
Yep.
Is that in March sort of scope still, or is that going to be, right, really have an idea but we're not going to get down to the city level yet? Sorry, this is maybe a dumb question.
Yeah, it's more of to have like cities and stuff on the map, but it won't be super detailed.
Think of it like when you're starting up in a strategy game
Yeah, like it's not
where
gonna-
it's the location exists on the map, but it's just this is where in this zone the town will be.
Mm.
The actual things like the fortification, a lot of that stuff, I think you'll find come from the EP store.
They do, yeah.
Yeah,
I
there was
mean,
supposed to be
obviously-
a certain amount of random development before we did EP. That's the way I always took it, but I could be again.
Yeah, so it
honest.
depends where the town is. So if it's like a border town, they'll probably make it as a fortification. So if it makes sense, like if it's on like a river or some sort of choke point, probably naturally be a fortification for sure. But it only becomes a barony if it's contracted with the Duke. So it'll become Like if it's not contracted, it'll be a mere town no matter what, even if it's got fortifications.
I was actually kind of I'm more from a mayor perspective, and I'm more interested in being a baron. But you know, if they have an idea of like, oh, right, iron's rich in this area, like they might just have your visual indications saying good for iron, bad for farming. You know, this is what you're currently picking up when you grab the land.
They will have resources.
Good
on
for
the map.
iron, maybe, but I don't know
yeah.
about bad for farming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like some sort of indicator for the mayors when they're picking, because that's going to make a big
Yeah,
difference.
well,
They will have
as far
resources
as-
on the map.
As far as we know, that they're going to indicate certain resources on the map.
But I don't think they
that
tell us
doesn't-
where or anything. It's just,
They're not going to tell
yeah.
us where, but they will give us a general sort of overview.
Yep.
But they've also said that certain things like, you know, a gold vein that runs pretty deep underneath a plot of land, they might not put that on the map because it's either going to be too small or too far down that you would know it's there unless you were deliberately excavating.
Yep. Yeah, basically, I know there's known resources. So I guess what my perspective of it is, if it's a resource that they put on the map, it's already kind of been set up there, and it's probably some sort of infrastructure. It's probably like crude or whatever that you can just begin, you know, cultivating or whatever. Yeah.
Like if you were in a heavily forested area, just as an example, you would assume that if you decided to take that town basically that was in that area, they'd probably have infrastructure like the sawmills and that sort of
Couple
stuff.
loggings,
So they'd be prepared for their situation. Just like with Vornat, I would assume that most places within the semi-arid desert probably have some sort of water source. He's not going to spawn there and be like, oh fuck.
Yeah, like all the towns and caves and whatnot that we live in would have some sort of water source nearby, because obviously you need that to live. I guess you can import water, but that's probably difficult to try and do.
That's what the slate. I mean, hang on. Two.
Yes, there's poor Kipix. I feel sorry for them.
Hey, I don't actually mind the Kipix. Considering the way they're written up, they're going to be really, like,
Creative.
they're going to be creative as shit. And if I can get some creatives that want to come down and start a fucking industrial research place down in my county or even in my town, I'll fucking fund that. They're great at inventing. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the concept art. They literally have shields that retract.
Yeah.
Like off the bat, they have this shit. They are so much smarter than we are.
They're basically gnomes for World of Warcraft.
Basically, yeah.
Like in terms of
So-
like gizmos and stuff, like they will spurn the technology, or lead the technology levels in the app.
In saying that, there is a level of player introduction that changes the way that works.
True.
You can invent stuff just as well as a Kipik can if you can think of how to do it. The difference is the
Kipik are more natural can do it. They've got the buffs or whatever.
Naren get a bonus to research as well.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's more that them as a society. That's what I was looking for. As a society, they're a lot more prone to research and discoveries and inventions. That's where it comes in. It's not on a one-to-one player basis. It's more the societies that exist there.
So if their society is pretty poor, like research for whatever reason, like the focus shifts, then it's possibly that, you know, everyone else can go ahead. It's all up to the players / NPCs, but mostly players. We have no idea what KOE. As far as we know, it's just going to be a browser-based, kind of like Crusader Kings light, very light thing going to be. But other than that, we don't really know.
We haven't had a lot of details on it.
Yeah.
If we did, you're right. We probably couldn't say much, but at the moment they've been pretty
busy doing other things.
Yeah, pretty quiet about any sort of research they've made while they're working on setting up the domain and settlement selection and all that stuff.
As well as the alpha.
Yeah, that's going to be coming pretty soon, depending on how things go.
I estimate after DSS, but it could be parallel.
Well, the more things that happen, like we had land selection. We've got we got like map selection, and then we've got domain selection coming up now. Like the ball is rolling. It might be rolling slowly, but we are picking up momentum. They've been at this for what, 4 years? Like,
Yeah, they've been up.
development for 4 years, getting everything, trying to get it all working. Like, they're at the point now where the ball is rolling. They are getting things done, and we are going to start seeing more things happen. They've said 2020 release. Like, that's pretty reasonable.
Maybe 2021, maybe depending on
When I
how
was
it goes.
when I
but
was
yeah.
doing my course, they kind of drilled it into us that if you're gonna start building a game, make a 5 to 10 year projection.
Yep.
Obviously, that's without having like a AAA backing, all that other crap. But just you have to make a wide projection, and 2020 seems pretty reasonable. I mean, shit, I can personally say that if we get to the end of this year and we haven't hit alpha, I'll be kind of pissed. if we haven't neared into some sort of alpha, I'll be a little upset, and especially if there hasn't been a valid reason for it. If the fucking office burns down, that's fair enough. But if they just haven't gotten around to it, I'd be wanting to know more questions. I'd be wanting to ask more questions and find out why. But they're definitely starting to push into that sort of stuff.
I just want to say, appreciating the honesty. Like, you guys are saying some things that are kind of not counterintuitive, like that are pretty straight up and down. Like, they could go bad later. I appreciate that one, but like, I want to ask a question here, which is, how are you gonna sort of manage at this stage, right? This early stage before everything's come out. How are you gonna manage getting people into groups when there's 2 or more different groups? So let's look at like any of the races. I'm fumbling this up. How are you going to deal with competition between people wanting to get new people in? Like, how are you managing that? Because it's pretty hard at this stage. Do you have any plans for that?
I missed part of that. Between people trying to get what?
So if you got like 2 different draft groups, right, at this stage, are you just like, if you can get on in, that's how you're gonna? Yeah, no, fuck it. I can't. I don't even know what I'm asking.
Are you
I'm trying to,
asking
like-
how you get people into like crafting groups or whatnot, or like adventurer
Yeah, like, when
groups,
it-
or
'cause
like
at this
battle
stage it's-
groups?
Yeah, are you guys managing like if one group gets too big, right?
Like if a
anything
guild
like
gets
that?
too big, yeah.
Yeah, because obviously it's a meritocracy,
Yeah.
so it's whoever can get most people in, right? So there's just confirm there's no like management if one group gets too big. It's just whoever can like get people in. That's how it rolls because it's a meritocracy. Is that sort of how it is? It is at this stage before the game's out, though.
Before the game's out, yeah. I mean, I guess it's not like we've gone to the effort of like the council isn't supporting one group itself. You know, like we're not backing anyone in particular. We're happy to give exposure to all groups. That's why we set up channels for it and stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as groups getting too big go, I mean,
it depends what they're doing, I guess.
Realistically, like there isn't a lot we can do to sort of mitigate that. And to be honest, I don't think it's something we would want to mitigate because growth is good. Like I understand from the other side of it being one group's got 200 people in it, and you're just coming in now trying to set up something similar but with different ideals, and everybody's in that other group. So what the fuck are you going to do? But I mean, if you're feeling like you're stuck in a hole, you can come talk to us, man. But realistically,
I'm just thinking about the future, like.
Oh yeah, no, I just mentioned general. Like if you're in that position, like, come talk to us. We're happy to sit down, have a chat, discuss any feelings you have towards stuff like that. Even if it's just to do with you've just become a mayor and you can't really find anyone because you feel like everybody's sort of joining somewhere else because they've been around longer, they're more popular, whatever. It's just
in a way it should promote competition, right? Like if a group gets too big and they've got a monopoly on something, then that's a form of PvP, right? That's a form of like economic. Like if someone wants to like take down the big guy or something, that's a story for someone to try and do, I guess. They want to set up something. And it's it's happened. You see it like in the Hanseatic League in the medieval times. Like I'm pretty sure I butchered that name, but you know what I mean. Like they got these trade leagues going on, and there's other trade leagues that will verse it and whatever. You know what I mean? That pop up. So if you want to, that's just another form of economic PvP. that said, as Yuri was saying, we're happy to try and support anyone and everyone who wants to support the kingdom. So, if you need a startup or something, maybe if we can afford it, allow you to, set up a shop or something and, start you off. Definitely, I'll take that into consideration and whatnot. And as I said, competition's quite healthy, so.
Okay, thanks for that.
Fair
Thanks for
enough.
being patient with me getting that question out there.
Oh, that's all good. It's all good. I sort of knew what you meant from the start when you were.
Yeah. Yeah, because you answered that really well. Thank you, guys.
I know.
Seriously though, how long does the actual selection last for? Do we give dates, like firm dates yet?
No firm
I
dates.
don't
March
think we have.
sometime.
It's
Okay.
just-
I don't think we have firm
No.
dates. The
No.
way it's going to work is kings get to pick, and then I think it's like a period after that, dukes get to dukes unlock and they can pick.
So
then after-
far it's like this. It'll be a week for the kings to pick, and then I think it will be another week for the dukes then to pick. And so the idea is the time selection gets smaller and smaller, right? So then you get to counts, and that might take 2 or 3 weeks. But because there's a lot of counts, they get less time to pick. And then aristocracy, they get like maybe 4 weeks or something, and then the time they get, because there's hundreds and
As-
hundreds of aristocracies. So
As far as I knew, though, it's not going to lock the previous tier out. It's just going to be opening up, right?
correct. So anyone that misses it will only miss a prime placement, but they can still
Yeah.
always place wherever, really.
So it's
Whatever
a
trade.
case of
Yeah.
as a count, if you don't place before the mares unlock, you might want this location, but then you've also got to sit there and go, well, these mares are here, and I don't like this guy. He's a fuckwit. He's all right though, but I don't know if I want this guy in my county, and that's sort of the
You got me
dilemma.
now.
Well, I was going to ask what else is there that's new that we may not know. I guess might be a dumb question, but is there anything else going on apart from Kingdom Selection? You guys can say, hey, we've learned this recently. That's interesting business, or
Not
Your
besides
favourite word,
the
Uriel?
alpha, but that's all in the sprint. So it's pretty much as we know about the alpha.
yeah, and yeah, I'm on the Alpha 2 anyway, so I have to wait like a pauper.
That's it. But to be honest,
you're not missing out on much in the Alpha 1, trust me.
yeah. But to be honest,
We literally are mud peasants,
the
all
main
of us.
the main focus that we have is domain summon selection, because that's the biggest thing that's going to pretty much come up that will affect kingdoms as a whole that's being propped up. So that's the only thing that really affects. And then after that, I dare say things will die down a bit, because it's only going to be in the alpha and whatnot and beta. But yeah.
I'm just suggesting it, with our kingdom, everyone's all hunky-dory with kingdom relations, aren't they? Like, I've watched you guys catch up in Melbourne and stuff. It's going to go... I wonder how long they'll last out of the sake of boredom, so to speak, Just...
Well, that's a whole different thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with two kingdoms deciding they're going to go to war for a while if they've got the resources set up. Who knows what can happen. But I would like to say though that it's good to see that I've seen 3 of, because unfortunately Preacher couldn't make it. Like, dude's pretty busy. But I've seen Emery, Kat, and Zach all sit at the same fucking table with me and have a drink, and not matter about anything to do with anything that's going on within the game itself, like within any of the politics that have happened within the Chronicles of Discord. So, Zarfly, to answer your question on the meeting thing, we don't have one planned, but I imagine there is a very strong chance that once domain and settlement selection actually happens, probably once the Dukes have placed their duchies down and we can see the resources, we will definitely be trying to host another meeting.
I dare say maybe even before that.
Yeah.
Once we get the new map, I dare say I probably would like to call another kingdom meeting.
During domains and settlement selection, we'll probably have a couple of meetings between when the council is discussing multiple things.
Yeah.
Send off fertile soil to chef.
Yeah, so I dare say
Get glowing vodka in return.
multiple meetings next month if all goes smoothly.
Yeah.
So which one is the kingdom religion?
If you're talking about the capital, I'll be in Naren. I don't know what the kingdom religion will be, because half the kingdom's basically the twofold queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, unfortunately with the religion side of stuff, it's kind of what we got from the lore pieces that they wrote out, so we don't know too much about how religion's mechanics will work or anything like that. Again,
Yeah, no.
it's mostly theory crafting, yeah.
When I'm asking about like the kingdom religion, it's meaning so as the king,
Yeah.
if you're Niran, then there would be Vittori,
Yes.
and it might not be the largest one.
Yep.
But
it's there. Yeah.
for the kingdom.
I don't know what the king religion will be. I can't answer that.
There's a lot of mechanics involving that we just don't have yet.
Yeah. I mean, we might not have a kingdom religion. It just might be, duchy based, which I dare say that might be the case. But why do we pick Kingdom 3, not 1? From the get-go, Emery has wanted Kingdom 1, and that's completely fine. I basically wanted to go Niran, the vanilla one, to allow people to have, if they want to go Niran, to go Niran. There's no point in me trying to compete with Emery, and I literally have no interest in the Bridvia at all. So with that, Noble has come out and said he wants Kingdom 2, and then with Preacher going Kingdom 4, and as he's been this kingdom, and me and him are still pretty good friends, so that leaves Kingdom 3 the natural selection for us to choose. Yeah, so you find that with our kingdom, we have a unique, I guess a few unique biomes. Well, literally we have all unique biomes, I should say, sorry, because we got the semi-arid desert, which I don't know if that's particularly good, because it's desert, but then we've got the Drast Bog, so we're the only kingdom that has Bog Iron, which is competing with the Horathri Iron, and then we've got the Grasslands. There's no other kingdom that has Grasslands, which means we'll have more farming fields and whatnot, and actual standing armies, and actually cavalry. We'll probably definitely specialize in that. And then we've got
because grasslands for horses.
And then we got the marsh, and no other kingdom really has the marsh, I guess, unless you want to say swamp, but
they're two different things.
Two different things, and to be honest, I don't know what to expect in the marsh. So,
so with
I don't know.
with the next question there, is it possible relations with Cap could worsen? I mean, tensions can strain regardless. Like even if Zach and Helgard are still on good terms, that doesn't mean that diplomatic relations in general can't be strained by other means. It's kind of a tricky question to answer. War could happen at some point. War could happen as a planned event that both kingdoms decide collectively together they're going to try out. There could be a number of factors that come in there.
I mean, I'll put it this way. Me and Preacher have been together for 2 years, so...
Oh, is it almost your anniversary?
It's almost our anniversary.
Still hasn't been.
I feel like Preacher's wife would have something to say about that.
You know, the funny thing is the kingdom's the foundation date is on the 14th of February.
Really?
Yep. But yeah, no, I trust Preacher 100%. Like, me and him, we regularly visit each other and go out and drink and whatnot, so, it's there. The trust is there.
When it comes to the war and everything, we're still going to have a lot of land to work. It's not like we're going to be crowded.
No, definitely not going to be crowded at all.
So there's going to be a lot of taming of the kingdom, if you will.
Yes.
So people that want to go to war and raid, no, that's going to happen. But I don't think a major war will happen anytime soon. It just doesn't make sense. It could happen, but economically, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
I mean, war's expensive.
You can't hold it, though. You're not going to be able to hold it.
Yeah, war's expensive.
Like, yeah, it is.
I don't. We've discussed this plenty of times. I don't foresee any wars breaking out because it's, especially at the start, nobody's going to have the infrastructure to maintain being at war.
That's right.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. It's not sustainable. You can't keep what you take. I mean, so raiding and things like that might happen. But
and nobody wants to be that guy that says, "Hey guys, we've been playing the game for a month. I'm putting your taxes up so I can go to war."
Good way to get overthrown, really. That said, I think we'll start wrapping this up now. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming and joining us. This has been going on for 2 hours now, an hour and a half. So
hour and a half.
Yeah, it's getting a bit late. So thank you for everyone for coming. If you wish to stay, you can stay. I'll probably hang around for an extra 5 or 10 minutes if you want to chat and DM or what have you, or private conversation, that's fine. But yeah, so thanks everyone for coming to the meeting, and it is adjourned. Cue Judge Hammer.